Hey y'all, my name is Naomi. Welcome back to A Theory with Naomi. Today I'm going to be talking about this book right here. So recently I've gone to Barnes & Noble's like twice in the last month and I have been racking the freak up. I got so many books. Like, I guess I should, I wasn't planning on doing this video, but I don't even know if it's going to fit in the frame, but I got these. Okay. This was the first book of the haul that I started. I just haven't finished it yet. And I just needed something new because I started that book while my grandmother was in the transition of leaving this earth. So it was kind of weird to finish it. And I just haven't been really, And I got these. Okay. And then the last two of that have been, or the last three. So, but yeah, I will be reading all of these and like doing reviews on them because I've been reading for like a fucking minute. But no, I'm really passionate about reading as I am a writer. I write urban fantasy, and that's typically what I read: gay, urban fantasy, witchy shit, paranormal stuff. And I just wanted to share my thoughts on this because it was my goal to finish, like I said, to finish Honey Girl first and be the first thing. I really love this book, by the way. I just needed a break from it. And I started this yesterday. She Drives Me Crazy yesterday, like 10 a.m. And I finished like at 5 a.m. This morning. And I was just like, oh, it's been so freaking long since I finished any book that fast. Like, I'm talking years. I'm talking since like high school, and I'm 28. And a little bit of background about my reading and writing like history is like I think like a lot of people started really reading around like the Harry Potter, Twilight Saga phase, and I'm no exception. And I also started to write a few years later, and after I was like, okay, I want to see what I can bring to the table, and I've just been working on stuff since then. Nothing is published yet, but something is in the works. It's been in the works for like the last 3 years. I am rambling, but I will try to put a timestamp or some shit. I don't know in this, so you can just fast forward to the review. I wrote fan fiction for a few years, and I think I have like around 40 or so fanfics. So I was at that for a while, and I like gave it up like 3-4 years ago so I could focus on my own writing career. And I feel like with that, and even years before, I wasn't so much focused on reading like the stuff that enjoyed me. I was more focused lately on personal development stuff like Atomic Habits. One of my friends got this for me. It's been on my list for like a good year now, and things like that. And I've been wanting for the last several months to really get back into reading for fun and just reading things that necessarily aren't for personal development or self-help or my healing journey. I just wanted to let loose. And this was a good book to do that with. And my focus as of late has been queer books, has been POC books, has been witchy, paranormal, supernatural books. So those are like my three main like focuses, and this just fell in the queer section. And okay, so a little bit about these two. This is Scotty here. She's the main character. She's our protagonist. She is butch. She's never really said that she's butch, but you can pretty much tell she's butch from like her interests and how she talks about like feeling apart from femininity and like makeup and that whole thing, and her like wearing a suit to something important. And this is Irene, her love interest. So first things first, let's just talk about the tropes. So the tropes in this one that really like the selling point of this book is like fake dating, enemies to lovers. But they snuck a one bed trope in there that I just thought was really cute. It was cute. Like, it wasn't, I'm not going to say it wasn't very telling, but I just think it was cute. But so the fake dating comes about because these two, they have like a history, like a tiff, and it's not necessarily talked about until they get further along in their connection. So basically, Irene towed Scotty's car a good few months ago while Scotty was dating her now ex-girlfriend that goes to their rival basketball school. And so Scotty here wants to make her ex-girlfriend jealous, so she hatches a plan with Irene here. And that all comes about because these two bump into their cars into each other. And Scotty has to drive Irene to school via their moms getting involved. So that's how that starts out. And it's, pretty quickly resolved, the whole car thing. But then, once that's resolved, Scotty has noticed that Irene's presence at their games, or just their practices, have brought more crowd and attention to their games. And the girls basketball team in this book is very losery. Like they don't have a crowd, they don't have a stage presence either. And with Irene being like one of the number one popular girls in school, Scotty's like, I can use this to my advantage, and I'm gonna pay this bitch deductible. So she gives her money also to do this, to be her fake girlfriend. And it's really advantageous for the both of them because Irene really wants her mom to see that cheerleading is a sport and that she's an athlete. And that's a big thing in this book. Scotty in the beginning tells her, you're not a freaking athlete, and I think you're stupid, or no, well, pretty much, yeah, she said in so many words, because there's this award, this like Athlete of the Year award or something for their school that Irene wants to win, and Scotty's like, yeah, you're not going to win that. But, so, oh God, ADHD brain. So one of the selling points for Irene is that she doesn't have to quit cheerleading and pay back this deductible for running her car into Scotty's car. And so that is one of their bonding agents for them sticking together. And as you go along in the book, you really start to see that, oh, there's more to this, because I thought it was just really cute and fluffy and tropey, and it is all of those things and goofy, but it starts to become about Scotty's healing journey and her doing all these elaborate schemes just to make her ex jealous is part of that healing journey. And as someone, that has gone through heartache, as I'm sure a lot of us have watching this, you, in those first few months, kind of think about things you could do potentially to get back at them. And that is part of the healing journey. I feel like that's being authentic and being like, bitch, you hurt me and I want your attention. Not for everybody, but for some people, especially for Scotty. And Irene, having been there before with her previous best friend, now turned enemy, like antagonist, Irene here is like, I think you don't have to do all of this to, like, you're putting so much effort and energy into making your ex jealous when you could be moving on, parentheses, with me. And I think that it was really brave of the book to tackle like Scotty's healing journey. And it really isn't until like the later bit, and I'm not going to say terribly in depth the healing journey, but it's tackled really well. Like there are moments between Scotty and Irene when like they've already had physical affection. I don't know, they've already kissed and talked about their feelings, and Scotty's being upfront with Irene about where she's at, because Irene's big thing is she doesn't like grand gestures, or rather she would rather have communication be the thing that is between people, rather than like a big grand gesture. I forgot, don't kill me in the comments, but there is a movie, I forgot what it's called because I've never seen it, but I've only seen the boombox scene. So it's, what I'm talking about, with John Cusack, and he has the boombox at the end of the movie to woo the girl, and that's one of the things that is brought up in the book, because that's one of Scotty's favorite movies. And Irene's like, no, that's stupid, because she could have just talked about his feelings. And so that's like a thing with them where Scotty's like, oh, this grand gesture to try to like woo Irene and like get her to understand how I feel isn't really beneficial to Irene. It's only beneficial to me. And she's already made that clear that that's not how she would like for me to communicate with her. And there is a grand gesture at the end, and it's so cute and so cheesy, but I gay panicked and I gay laughed and I gay cried. There was gay shenanigans all around, and but I kind of missed the point. No, let's circle back. Again, ADHD brain. So one of the things with them was towards the end of the book is, once they've already communicated, Scotty's already communicated, I like you, but I need to work on me. And Irene's like, yeah, I told you, like, you do. You really do. And I understand. And there's no hard feelings. And, if, maybe when. And that's their kind of whole thing. And then they have little moments where they are civil with each other at school, and like they kind of catch up, or when something happens and Scotty's like in support of Irene or vice versa. And there's a moment in particular, let me try to find it. I know it's like towards the end here. I have, yes, okay. So they're just talking, I think, in the parking lot here, and it says, I'm just going to read the highlighted parts here. It says, Irene, you're a pretty incredible person. That's Scotty saying that, the main character. Irene blinks. Her steely gaze settles. I'm not Scotty. I just try to do better than I've done before. She pauses. Same as you. We smile at each other. I was looking at my notes here. We smile at each other. I don't want to end the conversation, but my body is numb with cold, yearning for the heat of my car. Besides, I have more healing to do. Good luck with what. I'm not going to read that. I say, backing away from her. I'll be cheering for you. And this award here is for the Athlete of the Year thing. So just little moments like that where Scotty's like, I have more healing to do. I want to be with you. And I know you want to be with me. Or at least I hope you do. And we both like still feel this thing, but I have a little bit more time left to go. That was something that I really, really loved for Scotty's journey, because like her in the beginning of the book, she was I don't want to say problematic, because I think that's a little overused, but I think that she was just hurting, and she was expressing to her family so much and her friends in the very beginning of the book that she was heartbroken, and they just did not give a fuck. They did not care. Like it wasn't like they were just like the ex-girlfriend of Scotty's. Everybody hated her. And so they were like, why are you hung up on this girl? She was so awful to you. And this ex of Scotty's did have a lot of toxic ways, but there was closure there, and I liked the closure that they had. And Scotty's moving on process. But she was just Scotty was talking to her sisters and her family and her friends. She was like, I'm just hurting. And they were like, you should not be hurting, essentially. And I feel like that played a part in her stepping back process, and her doing all of these things, like to try to, in her own way, she was going out of her way to try to heal. But I don't think she was necessarily trying to heal, but just trying to get Irene's attention so she could have some type of closure, so she could see, oh, everyone's saying her ex-girlfriend did not, or sorry, not, let me back up, tongue-tied. Scotty wanted to get her ex-girlfriend Tally's attention so she can get some kind of closure. And everybody was telling Scotty here that she was kind of silly for doing that. Like, you don't need that. She never cared about you, is basically what they were all saying. And that was, I think, wrong of them to say, because they didn't know for a fact. And granted, her ex-girlfriend did not display the best of qualities. It wasn't for them to say that. And I think that really hurt Scotty in the long run, because she was trying to prove to her and to everybody else, I guess, that her ex-girlfriend did care about her. And Scotty's big thing was not feeling like she was enough. And that was brought up quite a few times in the book. Like, her sister at one point said, your ex-girlfriend, like, she did a number on you, and when did your self-worth take a dive? Something of that effect. And that was brought up a few times. And there was one point when Scotty was telling all of this to her parents and her sisters, like the whole scheme, the whole thing. And she was saying, or her parents were like, when did this happen? When did you stop believing in yourself? When did you stop thinking you were worthy? And she was like, that relationship, when it ended, I didn't feel whole. And it was just really good. It was really honest and authentic. And I was not expecting that from this book. I think I was just expecting something fluffy and high schooly. And one of the talking points that I wrote down was, a lot of us old, like, you know, people that are not in high school or anymore. Like, we just have this, I guess, belief that high schoolers and teenagers are just not mature, like emotionally mature. And a lot of them, I guess, cannot be. But it's just, because we remember how it was. We know that we were not where we should, you know, felt like I guess we should have been. I don't know. But I feel like we need to start giving people more credit than that, because in this day and age, everybody's kind of getting called out on their bullshit. And I think this book did a pretty good job where it showed these two, Irene and Scotty, being emotionally mature once they got to that place where they were able to trust each other and properly communicate and say and call each other out on their, they were always calling each other out on their BS, but towards the end there, once they actually talked about their feelings, they were it was very open, and it was very, I like you, I think you need to do healing, or I like you and I'm going to do healing, I'm still in my healing process. And it was just, I was not, I don't know, I just wasn't expecting it. I know I keep saying that, but y'all know what I'm talking about, because not many writers do this, especially not with teenagers. And I think it was just a brave thing to do, especially with a queer couple. I feel like a lot of times domestic abuse is like a hot topic for queer couples, for same sex, or just queer couples in general, I should say. And because there isn't necessarily the same stigma with heterosexual couples as there is with queer couples, but there is a stigma with queer couples. It's and it could become very toxic very quickly if you know, you're both identifying kind of similarly. And let me just preface, they never got into a physical altercation. That was never a thing that happened in the book. But like, if you're going at it and you're both like, I don't know, I guess I don't know how to phrase this properly without sounding like insensitive or whatever, because I don't want to. I guess my thing is, they handled it really well, like talking, them actually disagreeing with each other and having it not be problematic or, I guess, toxic, because they were able to, even if they said the wrong thing to each other, or even Scotty with her family, even if they said the wrong thing to each other, they were able to come back later and have a conversation. They were able to calmly and evenly discuss their points of view and say, you know, I love you and I'm sorry I did this. Let's try this moving forward. I thought that was great. I thought that was great. And I think that more books need to like need to talk about just to tackle that, because it's really, I think it's hard, especially as a queer writer, to have highly emotional scenes and it not come off as toxic or domestic abuse, especially when people are just like super sensitive, if that makes sense. Like, if both parties in the disagreement are super sensitive, it's like, I don't know, like with me and my two queer characters in my book series, I get nervous at times because one of them, the butch character, is very hardened and very push people away and very just closed off. And the protagonist is not necessarily, well, she kind of is, but not to the same degree. And when they have altercations, also because they physically train together, I get nervous that people will think that they're toxic because of the level of how much they push and pull against each other. But to balance that, I always try to have them come back to each other and, you know, show up for each other. Like when one of them is hurt, the other shows up or protects the other one, or, you know, just tries to be there. And even if they can't quite say it with words, they make sure they show up for each other. And they challenge each other. And I think I'm rambling again. But okay, I do want to talk about, I had an expectation with this book. I thought, as I was going into it, that Irene was going to have a crush on Scotty with how they were like setting it up. But there was a thing that happened in the book where, like I said earlier, Irene had Scotty's car towed. And this happened before the book started. So, you know, this was their history. And for like it was one thing that had to be resolved within their dynamic for them to actually move forward, because it would come up for Scotty every so often because Irene did it, you know, I feel like she was bullying her, and she was just like, what the fuck did I do? Like, why did you do that? And it was really traumatic for Irene. It was, and it actually, or for Scotty, because it played a direct part in Scotty's self-worth, like, declining at that point. Not that that was Irene's job, you know, but it was just, it was all tied together. And where was I going? Where was I going? Oh, yes, the crush. So I thought that Irene had a crush on Scotty, and I thought that was why she did it, because at the time Scotty was with her ex. And I just assumed that that Irene was just being petty, but it had something to do with Irene's own thing. So Irene had a thing with her best friend, Charlotte, and it was very hush hush, and it was very, they made out when they were drunk kind of thing. And I think they pretty much said they slept together too. I don't know. But Charlotte's was her best friend, and she's now her antagonist the entire book. And she's really mean, and she pretty much was, you know, would just egg on Irene here. And it was a whole thing. And that, it just hurts because it's like, it was Irene's first love. And the whole thing that happened with the car was that Irene's friend Charlotte's new boyfriend, who was really awful to her, had the same freaking car as Scotty. And so the car that she tried to get towed was her ex-best friend's boyfriend's car, not Scotty's car. So that was something that I was actually surprised about. And I thought, since we found that out, or before we found that out, I just assumed that Irene already had a crush on Scotty. Because, okay, you can look at Scotty and tell she's got some pizzazz, right? And I felt like another thing in the book was Scotty often didn't think that people saw her. Like, she was shocked that Irene knew who she was and who her best friend was. And I mean, I know that, like, you can see she's an athlete, but in the book, this girl's basketball team, they're really nobodies. And so she was really shocked that Irene knew her. And I think that was another thing that played a part in another facet of Scotty's self-worth and, like, her depiction of herself and how people perceive her. She doesn't think that she shows up enough for people to see her. And that came up a few different times in the book. And I just appreciate that, because I think as young people, even as young adults or however old you are, you often think that you go unnoticed. And I was told by who used to be a dear friend of mine that, you know, I guess I feel like a background character in people's lives. So that was crazy to hear at that time. And I was like, yeah, but no, I think that is true. And I think that we can all get a little caught up in, I feel like it's a spectrum, because either you don't have any humility and you're just like an asshole and you just assume that you're entitled to everybody's time and energy and yada yada yada, or on the other end of the spectrum, you just assume that you are just a background, because technically you are a background character in everybody else's life. Like, you're the main character in your life and you're a background character in everybody else's life. That is fact, right? And so I think Scotty is struggling to find that balance because she was in a toxic relationship and the breakup was so sudden for her, and everybody in her life was telling her, everybody that she cared about and went to for support was telling her, you shouldn't have been in that relationship in the first place, and you're kind of being silly for even, like, grieving right now or mourning or wanting to even contact her for closure. And the thing that happened with the car, because people were calling her tow truck girl, which was not funny. I just think it's a silly nickname, but so yeah, that was the book for me, and I finished it in less than 24 hours. And I think it's definitely worth the read. It's definitely worth the read, and it's because it's super cute for one, and I didn't highlight it nearly as much as I went through and, like, highlighted for, I guess you really can't see, but in the earlier, I was really highlighting almost every page or making notes for Honey Girl, because it was just a different level of gay and spirituality for me for Honey Girl. But this, she drives me crazy. It's really cute, and I really like the ending, the grand gesture at the end. I think everybody's gonna like it because it's cheesy and it's cute, and Scotty went about it in a way where she was thoughtful enough where she has a few different moving pieces together for this. So Irene knew that this took time and effort, and it wasn't just about Scotty. Like, Scotty had already, you know, she pretty much said what she had to say to Irene, but she wanted everybody else to know, because there was this thing with Charlotte, Irene's ex-best friend, saying that that Irene was only dating Scotty because she wanted gay points for this athlete of the year vote. So that was a thing too that happened, and that was, it's really crappy that, someone would use that to try to diminish someone's character, especially because this whole dating scene was Irene's way of coming out. Like, she was already out to her family, and oh, by the way, I didn't say this, but she is Indian American, and I just thought that was really cute because she's so cute. And there's just some cute cluelessness on Scotty's part about certain things, and not like in a privileged way. It's just she didn't know, and I don't know. It was just Irene would tease her about certain stuff. And where was I talking? I don't remember. I tried to have this as organized as possible, guys. I'm gonna try to have better organization for that next book review that I do. And no promises, and I'm just gonna leave it in here. But yeah, the takeaway is, I loved it more than I thought that I would, and I would definitely read something else by this author. I did have stuff in here that I had highlighted or just bookmarked, but I feel like I pretty much hit all the points that I wanted to, and if I had to rate this out of a 5, I think I would give it a 3.5. And I would say 3.5 because there were definitely times throughout the book before certain things happened where I was like, this just really doesn't have much depth, and it's just cheesy and goofy and tropey, and that's totally fine and that's totally valid. But then, like I said, it just shocked me, certain things. I was not expecting this book to be about Scotty's healing journey, and for them to go the route that they did with it, and just those little moments within the healing journey for her was really good, and I really liked it, and it really resonated with me. That said, it's a teenager book. There's books out there, I feel like, with teenagers that are better written, but I wouldn't have, super high expectations. I don't know. Think Love, Simon. My thing with I guess the book was called Simon and the Homo Sapien. I don't fucking know. But Love, Simon, the book, y'all know which one I'm talking about. I liked the book. I loved the movie, helped me come out. But the book was cute, but for me, my thing is with characters and books and writing, I always want to spend more time with the characters. I always want to know more about the characters. I always want to know them more intimately, and especially the background characters, the characters that keep coming up. And I always, in my head, I always kind of just shave off a little bit, points wise, when I don't feel like that need has been met for me. And it might just be a silly need, but it's my need, so I guess it's not silly because it's mine. But I know a lot of people don't really feel that way as far as needing so much from the background characters, even more than what they're given. But I wanted it to go a bit deeper, like Scotty's friends and the one friend of Irene, and even Tally. I feel like I could have definitely hit more on Tally, and she was the ex-girlfriend of Scotty. And it was said, throughout the book, Tally was manipulative, and she was toxic, and she was I think they even said she was a narcissist. And I don't know if that's true, because the things that Scotty was describing and going back in her head about, she was saying, did she ever love me? Was she just using me? Was it all a game? Did I miss the sign and I think it was something else when it was this? That I feel like is kind of a form of manipulation where your partner intentionally makes you question things. Um, but at the same token, that was just Scotty's point of view. And we didn't get to see Tally's point of view. And the moments that Tally and Scotty had throughout the book where they would talk about stuff, it did seem like Tally was egging Scotty on, and she was just having an inflated ego type of thing where she was like, oh, how dare you move on. But come to find out, at the end of the book, when they do talk, Tally's like, you move, like, I had just seen you for the, like, that scrimmage game, and then all of a sudden you have a girlfriend he just broken up. Like, why, how did you do that? Like, that hurt. And I guess I wasn't expecting that. I don't think Tally or Scotty was expecting that either. So it was nice to see, because it made you be like, okay, well, maybe we just didn't get both sides of the story. And Tally's whole thing for going to their rival school to play basketball, she wanted to be seen, and she didn't feel like they were, like, she was being seen at the school, because before Irene was in the picture with Scotty, the women's basketball team sucked ass. So that's why Tally transferred, and that was very valid. And she said she felt like it would have been really heartbreaking and unfair to Scotty to stay in a relationship when they're at different schools. And I think that was also very valid, but it wasn't, clearly that wasn't expressed to Scotty. And I don't know, it's interesting. It's really new, it's nuanced. And that's the other thing. I even wrote in there, before, like, in the margins, I think a few times, like, I felt like the book was lacking nuance, and then all of a sudden, towards, like, the last quarter, it's got nuance out the ass. And yeah, so that's a 3.5 for me. 3.5. And I don't really know what I'm going to read next. There is a bunch of things that I could be reading next. So, but until next time, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have read this book, let me know what your rating is, the things you liked and didn't like. And if you have not read the book, and you want to, let me know what you're excited about. And hopefully I didn't ruin too bad. I got to put in the title, this has spoilers in it throughout the whole thing, actually. So I guess if you haven't read the book and you were planning to, probably don't watch this. Bye, y'all.